A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Welcome to the next issue of my YouTube series videos. Strive for Success is the channel name. Today's lecture, the name of today's topic is forms of tests, the types of tests uh, that Allah puts us in this world. I want to draw your attention towards the two verses of Surah Fajr. It's chapter 89, verse number 15 and 16. So we will start. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In verse number 15 of Surah Fajr, Allah Ta'ala says to us, فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ. And as for man, when his Lord tries him, then treats him with honor and makes him lead an easy life, he says, my Lord honors me. In the next verse of Surah Fajr, Allah Ta'ala says to us, وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانَنِ. But when he tries him differently and tests him by a measured, narrowed amount of sustenance, provisions, risk. Sustenance means the provisions, the nutritions, the risk, and tests him by a measured, narrowed amount of sustenance. He says, my Lord has disgraced me. Only these two verses, we'll concentrate on these two verses today. The message is that Allah is saying that when we give someone more risk and an easy life and all the an'am and all the convenience of this life, then that man says that Allah has honored me and Allah has given me everything. Okay, that's no problem with that. That fulfills the requirements of Tawheed. That is the oneness of God. That is, everything comes from Allah, whether it is money, whether it is wealth, whether it is misery, whether it is any other trouble. It always comes from Allah. Everything comes from Allah. That is the basic belief of a Muslim. That is the basic concept of Tawheed. So that is fulfilled. That is okay, no problem. In the second verse, Allah says, but when another man, he tries him differently and he gives that man lesser risk or lesser provisions or lesser measured amount, a counted amount, a measured amount of sustenance, provisions and nutritions, risk, he reduces his risk, then that man says, oh, Allah has disgraced me, that Allah has given me lesser risk and lesser facilities and lesser convenience of all these and lesser an'am of this world. Then that man says that Allah has disgraced me. So what is the message in these verses? Both these verses are fine as far as the concepts of Tawheed are concerned. Everything is from Allah. وَتُعِزُّ مَن تَشَاءُ وَتُذِلُّ مَن تَشَاءُ. Everything comes from Allah. So what is the message Allah is trying to give in these two verses? The actual message is that the first man who has been given more is also under a test. He has not been honored. He is under a test. And if he passes that test while involving himself in those an'am, when he will pass that test, then in fact he will be honored in the hereafter, in the world of hereafter, not in this temporary world. Allah is trying to teach us that neither the honor of this world is in effect is the actual honor, and nor the disgrace of this world is the actual disgrace. The actual honor is the honor of the world that is to come after death, and the actual disgrace is the disgrace of that world that is to come, that is the world hereafter, after the death. So Allah, the main message is this, as per these two verses. So a man who has been given more, Allah sees that whether that man complies, whether that man continues compliance with the directions of Allah, or he becomes a rebel, or he forgets Allah in in view of his blessings, in view of his enormous in'am, in view of his enormous wealth, he forgets Allah. Whether he forgets Allah or he continues to obey the directions of Allah, he continues his way of jihad, he continues to strive in the way, strive and do jihad for Allah. That is the wealthy man, whether he continues that practice or he forgets Allah. Similarly, the man who has been given less, Allah sees that whether that man becomes a rebel against Allah, whether that man becomes against Allah, na'uzubillah, against Allah, or he thanks Allah, or whether he thanks Allah for what he has been given by Allah. He has been given less, but whether he thanks to Allah, whether he remain obedient to Allah, or whether he becomes a rebel against Allah, whether he becomes against Allah for not giving him more. So these are the two forms of tests that is mentioned in Surah Fajr, and that is the short message that I just want to convey and explain. May Allah guide us all on the right path, and may Allah give us capability to read his book and to understand his book and the Quranic teachings. We should understand the Quranic teachings. We should understand a little bit of Arabic so that we can understand Quran directly without going into the translation, and we should try for that, and we should spread the message of Quran as much as we can. Thank you. Jazakallah khair.